Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me one quick favor, see that little black subscribe button on the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, hit that little black subscribe button. Really does help this channel grow, my audience grow, and I appreciate it more than you know. Also, quick thank you to our presenting sponsor, Betfred Sportsbook and the Betfred Sportsbook app. Bet $50 on any game. Get up to $1,111 in free bets courtesy of the Betfred Sportsbook. Thank you again. Now, here's the video that you came here for. All right, let's keep it going. Luke Fickell, one new head coach in this division. There is another very high-profile head coach in this division that is new as well. That is Matt Rhule at Nebraska. Now, Nebraska, their over-under win total is 6.5. I'll be blunt. I was kind of surprised at how high that win total is, and that is reflected in the money coming in on Nebraska. The over, you got to bet them at plus 110 odds. The under is minus 135. And so it speaks to bettors like the under in this spot. And I sort of get it. And let me start before I do any negativity. I love the Matt Rhule hire. Let's just get that out of the way. Let's be blunt. Let's be transparent. Let's be obvious. When Scott Frost was fired in late September, this was the guy that I said, you have to go get. Now, at the time, he was still employed by the Carolina Panthers, but you knew it wasn't going well. You knew there'd probably be an opportunity to get him. So credit Nebraska for getting this guy. And I really like who he is and what he's about. He's a builder. He's a program developer. We talked about it when the hire got made. You talk about a guy that took Temple from the bottom to the top. Baylor, year 3, I think it was, maybe year 4, has him playing for a Big 12 title. And if you remember that year, if they won the Big 12, they were going to the college football playoff. Did not work out. But Matt Rhule is a really good coach, and I'm really excited to see him at Nebraska. The concern, of course, is that unlike Luke Fickell, he doesn't really return much of an infrastructure, okay? This stat on Nebraska blew me away. And Nebraska fans, I'm sorry to do it. I love Nebraska. I've said it many times. I'm a child of the 90s. Nebraska was the Alabama of my childhood. I want Nebraska to be good. When I saw this stat, I couldn't believe it. Nebraska has not played in a bowl game since 2016. They haven't played in a bowl game. Forget playing for a conference championship, a division championship. They haven't played in a bowl game since 2016. It shows you how far they've fallen, and it shows you the work that Matt Rhule is going to have to do to get this fixed. Now, in terms of the positives, or at least the interesting, like everything else, this is the portal era. And I think like a lot of head coaches, Luke Fickell talked about this. Brian Kelly, who's in his second year, has talked about this. Matt Rhule probably wants to develop players from high school within the program, but was very aggressive in the portal, including at quarterback where he went out and got Jeff Sims. Now, I get for his offense specifically, you want to have a quarterback that's mobile. Let me also say, I do feel like the Jeff Sims hype, I don't really get it. So I've heard a lot of people kind of try to sell me that Jeff Sims was really good and is going to be really good at Georgia Tech. Here's the bottom line. And to be clear, I get that he wasn't playing with very much talent at Georgia Tech, but this was a guy whose best season was 2021, 60% completion, 12 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 372 yards rushing. That was his best season. And last year, 58% completion percentage, 4 TDs, 3 interceptions. Not blaming the kid. A lot of, listen, he went to a situation that was not good at Georgia Tech. Clearly, Jeff Collins wasn't the right coach. But I look at that and I say, that's the savior for Nebraska. I'm not sure that I see it. Good news, does have some nice pieces around him. Leading returning rusher Anthony Grant is back. 915 yards, 6 touchdowns, 4.5 yards per carry last season. Also, Marcus Washington, second leading receiver from a year ago, thought he played well for an otherwise unfortunate Nebraska situation. 31 catches, 471 yards, 1 touchdown. And Xavier Betts was really good 2 seasons ago. Redshirted last year, should see a bigger role. Beyond that, offensive line is definitely a work in progress. About 3-4 transfers that have come in, but should get improved over the course of the year. The question, of course, is defensively. And listen, whenever you talk about a team with a first-year head coach, but more specifically a first-year head coach where the previous head coach was fired early in the year, I get that last year's Nebraska defensive stats might not totally be fair because bluntly, you look at Nebraska, and that is probably a program where, I hate to say it, but I'm sure a lot of those kids, I don't want to say they quit on the new coaching staff led by Mickey Joseph, but I can see where the intensity wouldn't be there for 12 weeks when for 9 of those weeks you're playing for an interim head coach. I bring it up. That defense wasn't good. 28 points per game allowed, 76 nationally. 414 yards per game allowed, 99th nationally. 189 yards per game allowed, 108th nationally. And then also on top of that, the pass defense was ranked 67th nationally. And again, I get that there was an interim head coach. By the way, you look at some of the results from even early in the season. Remember, Northwestern, it was the only win that they got against a Power 5 opponent. Northwestern put up 31 points on them. Georgia Southern put up 45 points on them. Oklahoma put up 49 points on them. Purdue put up 43 points on them. The defense, to its credit, got a little bit better late, took care of Wisconsin or held Wisconsin to just 15 points. We talked about Wisconsin, Iowa, etc. But the defense wasn't very good. And you look at this group, unfortunately, they just didn't add a ton via the portal. Probably the most high-profile name, Elijah Judy from Texas A&M, former 4-5-star guy. Never really got it going there. Good news is, though, a lot of experience in the back seven. Luke Reimer back, 86 tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss last year. Nick Heinrich, 37 tackles before an injury midway through the season. And they did add MJ Sherman from Georgia, a high-profile transfer. Secondary as well, by the way, has a lot of returning experience. Miles Farmer, Quentin Newsome, Malcolm Hartzog, among the many who played last year. Now, in terms of the schedule, here's the concern, right? And I just talked about it with Wisconsin. Wisconsin's schedule is pretty manageable for Big Ten West standards for the final year of divisions in the Big Ten. Nebraska, not so much. Nebraska opens at Minnesota, which is going to be tough, and then has to go to Colorado in week 2, which will be the home debut of Deion Sanders, Coach Prime. Not saying that they won't be favored, because they are in the Betfred Sportsbook as we talk right now. But at the same time, that's a tough opening 2 games for a new head coach. And then by the end of September, early October, you have to play Michigan and you play Illinois on the road. Illinois, again, remember, is coming off an 8-win year under Brett Bielema. Second half is manageable, but you do have to play at Wisconsin and then Iowa at home to close the year, so I don't think it'll be easy. And so I look at this Nebraska team. Listen, I hope I'm wrong. I want Nebraska to be good so bad. But at the same time, have to be fair, have to be realistic. Matt Rhule inherited a very tough situation. I don't love Jeff Sims. Inexperienced offensive line. Inexperienced defensive front for Nebraska, although the back seven should be good. And I do worry about that schedule. I actually think the under is the right play here. I see why the money is coming in on the under. It is hard for me to find 7 definitive wins, because the over-under is 6.5. I would take the under. I don't know if I'll officially bet that one, though, because listen, I could see the scenario where Nebraska gets to 7-5 and goes to a bowl game. Obviously, you play Northwestern at home, Purdue at home, cross-division games with Michigan State, Maryland at home. So I can see the scenario, but it's not going to be easy sledding, and it'll be fascinating to watch unfold. Would lean under there, but probably won't bet it.